Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today, I have something special to share with you, so get ready, because this is going to be worth it. Judith is a woman who emerges in a moment of profound despair when her people's faith is fading in the face of the overwhelming threat of Assyria. Israel's situation is grim, and the leaders of the town of Bethulia are paralyzed by fear, unsure of what to do to prevent imminent destruction. But Judith, a widow with unwavering faith, begins to pray and fast, seeking divine guidance. Her response is radically different from those around her. Instead of surrendering to despair, she turns to the strength that comes from her connection with God. She makes prayer her first and most important weapon, trusting that just as God had intervened in other times of crisis, He could once again step in and save the people of Israel. This is the beginning of Judith's journey, not one of physical warfare, but one of faith, prayer, and devotion. At the same time, Judith doesn't sit idly waiting for God's answer. She boldly challenges the leaders of the town, who are beginning to question God's presence in their days of suffering. In an act of unparalleled courage, she confronts them, saying, "Who are you to test God today?" These words are not mere criticisms, but a cry of hope and unwavering faith in a God who can perform miracles. In doing so, Judith not only challenges the lack of faith among her fellow Israelites, but also presents herself as a living example of how, in times of trial, one must act with courage and trust in divine providence. She teaches us that often, the first step toward solving a problem is inner strength in the face of adversity, a call to action rooted in unwavering faith. Judith doesn't settle for being a voice of hope. She goes further and places her own life at risk to save the people of Israel. With courage that many might consider reckless, she devises a bold plan to confront General Holofernes, the leader of the Assyrian army. This plan, which involves going alone into enemy territory, is not just bold, but terrifyingly dangerous. Yet Judith's faith and conviction drive her to pursue it, believing that God will deliver her and her people through this audacious act. It's a reminder that sometimes great acts of bravery are born from deep trust in God, and that the most unlikely of heroes can emerge when faith is unwavering. Judith's courage and faith are not just demonstrated in words, but in action. As she prepares for the dangerous mission ahead, she does something unexpected. She changes her appearance, removing the sackcloth and ashes of mourning and adorning herself in fine clothes. This is not an act of vanity, but a strategic decision. Judith knows the power of perception, especially in a world where women were rarely seen as leaders, let alone warriors. By transforming herself into a striking figure of beauty and elegance, she disarms the enemy. Her appearance is carefully crafted not just to captivate, but to give her an advantage. She is going into the enemy camp not only to speak, but to play a role, one that requires both cunning and precision. Judith's transformation isn't only physical, it's spiritual as well. The beauty she presents is a reflection of her inner strength and faith. Her preparation is meticulous, and her resolve is clear. As she anoints herself with oils and dons jewelry, she isn't merely preparing for a visual impression. She's spiritually arming herself for the monumental task ahead. She enters this dangerous mission not as a helpless widow, but as a woman of strength, wisdom, and divine purpose. Her faith has been her foundation, but now she needs to be wise in how she plays her part, knowing full well that God is guiding her steps. Her transformation and approach are a brilliant example of strategy. Judith uses the perceptions of others as a tool, understanding that by using her appearance and charm, she can lower her enemy's guard. As she makes her way into the Assyrian camp, her beauty and composure stun the guards, who would never have expected such a bold move from a woman. Judith's actions show us that sometimes we must use our surroundings and our perceived weaknesses to our advantage. In her case, what might have been seen as a vulnerability became her strength, an essential component of her faith-driven strategy. It's a powerful reminder that in the face of overwhelming odds, faith, and wisdom often combine in the most unexpected ways. As Judith enters the enemy camp, she steps into a world of danger, yet her faith and strategy guide every move. Her encounter with General Holofernes is a delicate dance of faith and deception. She plays the role of a humble widow, presenting herself as someone who has fled her city and now seeks to serve the Assyrian forces. Holofernes, driven by both arrogance and curiosity, welcomes her into his tent, unaware of the boldness that lies beneath her calm exterior. Judith's words are carefully chosen, laced with half-truths that appeal to Holofernes' ego and his belief in his invincibility. She speaks with humility, but behind her words lies an unshakable purpose. She is here not to serve, but to defeat him. Judith's words, however, are not just aimed at flattering Holofernes. They are calculated to set the stage for the moment she knows will come. She plays on his arrogance, leading him to believe that her loyalty and insight will grant him victory over Israel. This is no mere negotiation. Judith is laying the groundwork for his downfall. She knows that her success will not be won in a battle of strength, but in a battle of wits and faith. Every moment she spends with Holofernes is a strategic move in a larger game, one that is unfolding according to a plan much greater than her own. Judith's actions remind us that sometimes true power doesn't lie in force, but in the subtle art of persuasion, timing, and belief in a higher purpose. As the night progresses, Judith's moment of reckoning comes. Holofernes, now deeply intoxicated and overcome by his confidence, passes out in a drunken stupor. Judith, with steady hands and unwavering courage, seizes the opportunity. She picks up his own sword, the instrument of fear and oppression, and uses it as the tool of her divine mission. With a single, precise strike, she decapitates the general, an act that will turn the tide of history. The ruthless leader who has terrorized Israel now lies defeated by the hands of a single woman. Judith's actions in this moment are a testament to the power of faith and resolve. It is not the size of the army that matters, but the power of a heart aligned with divine purpose. After Judith successfully decapitates Holofernes, the real test begins. With the general's severed head in a sack, she and her maid make their way back to Bethulia, their hearts steady and their faith unwavering. The journey back is filled with tension, but also an overwhelming sense of triumph. Judith knows that this is the moment where Israel's fate is sealed, not by armies or weapons, but by the courage of one woman who trusted in God's deliverance. Her heart races not out of fear, but out of the knowledge that she has just struck a decisive blow against an empire that had been threatening her people's existence. This is not just a victory for Judith, but a victory for Israel and for the faith that had sustained them in their darkest hours. Upon returning to Bethulia, Judith reveals the head of Holofernes to the people. The city that had been gripped by fear and hopelessness now erupts in jubilation. The impossible has happened. Israel has been delivered not through military might, but through the courageous act of one woman's faith. Her triumph is a powerful reminder that God's power is often made most visible in moments when human strength is insufficient. Judith's faith and actions become the key to the salvation of her people, a symbol of how God can use even the most unlikely individuals to carry out His will. This victory ignites a wave of courage and determination throughout Israel, as the people now know that their deliverance comes not from the strength of armies, but from the unwavering trust in a higher power. Judith's return to Bethulia marks a turning point for Israel. The once paralyzed city rises up, emboldened by her courage. They pursue the Assyrian army, which, now leaderless and thrown into chaos, has no direction. The Assyrian soldiers are scattered, their morale shattered by the loss of their general, and the tide of war turns in favor of Israel. The people of Bethulia are no longer victims of fear, but active participants in God's victory. Judith's act of bravery transforms the people of Israel from a nation on the brink of collapse to one filled with strength and hope. It is a testament to the fact that when God's people trust in Him fully, even the most insurmountable challenges can be overcome. Judith's story does not end with her victory over Holofernes. In fact, her legacy only grows in significance after the immediate triumph. She becomes a symbol not only of courage and faith, but of divine justice carried out through an unexpected vessel. The people of Israel, once fearful and uncertain, now look to Judith as a living testimony of what can happen when one fully trusts in God's plan. Her actions inspire future generations, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, faith can transform impossible situations into victories. Judith's legacy is one of unwavering trust in God, showing that when faced with adversity, true strength comes from surrendering to divine will and believing in God's providence, no matter the odds. As Judith grows older, she lives a long and respected life, honored by all who knew her. Yet she never remarries. Her independence and devotion to God become the central aspects of her identity. Judith stands as a woman who does not need to rely on the structures of society to define her worth. She finds her strength and purpose in her unwavering commitment to her faith. This decision, though rare in her time, becomes an important part of her legacy. Judith's refusal to remarry emphasizes that her relationship with God was her primary focus, a choice that demonstrates the depth of her spiritual devotion. Her life continues to inspire not just through her acts of bravery, but through her lifelong dedication to living out God's will. Judith's story serves as a reminder to all who hear it that courage, when fueled by faith, has the power to change the world. Her legacy challenges us to ask ourselves, are we willing to take risks for the greater good? How deeply do we trust in God's providence? Judith's unwavering faith and bold actions prove that sometimes the most unlikely individuals can be the instruments of God's deliverance. Her story is a call to live fearlessly in faith, trusting that when we are aligned with God's will, we can face any challenge head-on and emerge victorious. Judith's victory is a powerful testament to the concept of divine providence, how God orchestrates events in ways that surpass human understanding. While Judith's bravery, wisdom, and strategy played a crucial role, it's clear that her success was not due to her own strength alone. Throughout her journey, she consistently relies on God's guidance and intervention, believing that He would deliver Israel through her actions. Her story shows us that when we place our trust in God, even the most impossible situations can be turned around. Judith's courage is not blind, but deeply rooted in her faith that God would provide a way where there seemed to be none. It's a beautiful reminder that our greatest victories often come when we align our actions with divine purpose. The way in which Judith's plan unfolds is a clear example of how God works through the unexpected. She is not a trained warrior, nor is she armed with the strength of an army. What she has is a deep trust in God's guidance and a willingness to act upon it, no matter how dangerous or impossible the task may seem. It's through her faith that she is able to seize the opportunity to confront Holofernes and ultimately bring about Israel's salvation. This isn't just a story of one woman's bravery, it's a story of divine providence at work, where God's strength is made perfect in the vulnerability of His chosen instrument. It's a reminder to us all that we don't need to have all the answers or the perfect plan. Sometimes God asks us to take bold steps in faith, and He will provide the way forward. The dramatic nature of Judith's victory leaves no doubt that God's hand was in her mission. The head of Holofernes, once a symbol of oppression, is now a symbol of God's triumph. This miraculous turn of events speaks to the power of divine intervention, where what seemed impossible becomes possible through faith. Judith's story challenges us to recognize the moments in our lives when God might be calling us to act with courage and faith, even when the outcome seems uncertain. Her victory is a shining example of how divine providence works in mysterious ways, turning the tide of history through the actions of a single, faithful individual. It's a call to remember that, with God, all things are possible. Judith's story carries profound cultural and theological significance that resonates far beyond the events of her time. In a world where women were often marginalized, Judith's courage and leadership shatter societal norms. She steps into a role traditionally reserved for men and does so with grace, wisdom, and divine purpose. By doing this, she challenges our perceptions of leadership, showing that true strength comes not from gender or societal expectations, but from faith, integrity, and trust in God. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that God can use anyone, regardless of their social status, gender, or background, to fulfill His will. It also calls us to reflect on how we view leadership and the power of individuals to make a difference in the world. Theologically, Judith's story is a rich exploration of God's sovereignty and the ways in which His plans unfold. Her victory is not just about a military conquest. It's about the spiritual battle between good and evil, faith and fear. Through Judith, God demonstrates that His power is not limited to the conventional means of strength. In a time when Israel was outnumbered and on the verge of destruction, God used a woman, a widow no less, to bring about salvation. This overturns expectations and underscores a fundamental truth. God's ways are not our ways, and His methods often defy human logic. Judith's victory serves as a reminder that when we place our faith in God, He can use us in ways we might never have imagined to accomplish His purposes. Culturally, Judith's tale also emphasizes the importance of divine timing and the role of human agency in God's plans. While Judith's actions were critical to the deliverance of Israel, it was her willingness to step into God's plan and act in faith that brought about the ultimate victory. This speaks to the ongoing relationship between human will and divine intervention. Judith didn't wait passively for a miracle to happen. She took decisive action, trusting that God would work through her. Her story teaches us that we must be willing to act when God calls us, even when the situation seems impossible. In doing so, we become part of His greater plan, helping to shape the course of history in ways we might never fully understand. The Forbidden Story of Judith. A tale of faith and bravery that was left out of the Bible. You probably think you know the stories of the Bible, heroes, battles, miracles, but there's one story that's rarely told, one that has been left out of many versions of the Bible, yet is a tale of faith and bravery unlike any other. Imagine a woman so fearless, so resolute in her belief that she would risk everything to stand against the most powerful military force of her time. Judith, a widow from a small town, steps into a world dominated by men and empires, armed only with faith, courage, and cunning. She faces an enemy so fearsome, its general is known to leave nothing but destruction in his wake. So why is her story so often overlooked? Why would this dramatic, faith-filled victory be erased from the pages of history? The answer is not as simple as it seems. Judith's story challenges everything we think we know about heroism, leadership, and the power of faith. In a time of hopelessness, when Israel's leaders had lost their will to fight, Judith steps forward, not as a soldier or a warrior, but as a woman with an unshakable belief in God's power. Her tale is one of strategic brilliance, but also divine providence. It's about more than just a physical battle. It's about standing firm in the face of overwhelming odds, believing that God will provide a way when there seems to be none. Her courage not only changed the course of Israel's history, but it also leaves a message for all of us. Sometimes the greatest acts of bravery come from the most unexpected places. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the Forbidden Book of Judith, uncovering how this incredible woman's faith and determination turned the tide in Israel's favor, all while questioning why her story was removed from many biblical texts. Stay with us as we explore the dramatic journey of one of the Bible's most fascinating and often forgotten heroines. Are you ready to discover the faith and bravery that could change everything you thought you knew about strength? Judith's story is not just a tale of one woman's courage, it's a challenge to each of us. How far are we willing to go when we truly believe in something? Are we willing to risk it all for what we know is right? Just like Judith, we can be called to take bold, faith-driven actions in moments when the world seems hopeless. But will we stand up, even when everything around us tells us to hide? Now, imagine what could happen if we applied Judith's unwavering faith and courage in our own lives. What risks would you be willing to take if you truly trusted in God's plan for you? Let her story inspire you to live boldly, with courage and faith. If Judith can stand in the face of overwhelming odds and change the course of history, what could you achieve with that same kind of faith? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into these powerful stories from the Bible. Let's continue to explore the hidden heroes who, like Judith, remind us of the strength that comes from trusting God completely. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What lessons from Judith's story are you going to apply in your life today?